Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. We'll continue our focus on the policy as announced by the CBN. We're joined now by Mr. Henry Boyo, who is an economist. Thank you for coming on this morning, sir.
My pleasure.
Well, looking at this policy, many predicate the fact that, as they see, closed at 282 Naira, some say 285 Naira per dollar. They then think, look, this is not a bad policy after all. Do you share the same view?
It's not a bad policy?
So they said. What do you think?
I think every policy of government has to be assessed in relation to the impact on the people. I think that should be the fundamental premise. You have to start from that position, okay? How does it affect you for Naira to be 280 what, or even 300? Because yesterday was just the beginning of the show. The impact of a devaluation of the extent of 280, 300, which is speculated to be where it's possibly going to land temporarily before it spikes again, has certain implications which must worry all of us. These implications are such that if we are not careful, we presently rank amongst the poorest nations in the world, but we'll probably end up as the poorest nation in the world. A devaluation that ensures that, put it this way, first, what is the objective? What are we looking for?
But interestingly, you say this is a devaluation. Some call it CBN floating the Naira, but you wrote saying this is 50% devaluation.
I think you are just playing with words. If you have a situation where you have to pay 50% more, whether they say it's floating or it's flying or it's stinging, the impact is still the same, okay? So the impact on you and me and Nigeria as a country must be recognized. First of all, we are looking for the objective, as I said, as I wanted to say, is that we would get more foreign investment coming in. I think that's the prime thing everybody says. It will allow more investments to come in. It doesn't tell you strictly how much investment we are looking for, but if we have to go by history, it is unlikely that we would have, we would expect over 15 billion or 20 billion to flow into the system, okay? That is the usual advantage that the propagandist would, use to explain that we need to devalue to this extent, or even beyond it, $15 billion. President Buhari challenged his economic experts. He said, tell me one good advantage of this thing. And he said they still couldn't tell me. And I'm still waiting I still can't get one, except possibly this one of, say, $15 billion will come through and everything will be okay afterwards. But what is the cost of that $15 billion that we're expecting, which is not even certain? Not to talk about this $15 billion coming directly as portfolio investments and adding very little. Those funds are funds which possibly adventurers, financial adventurers, would get 2 or 3% in their country, and because they see that your own country here is offering 15%, they'll bring it in. These are the kinds of funds we're talking about. We're now still talking about the objective or what you would get as a result of this devaluation. But what is the converse? 15 billion is what we're looking for, or any other advantage which hasn't been defined. But the cost immediately is that $45 billion, which used to be the value of the Nigerian stock exchange, of the shares in the Nigerian stock market, $45 billion or 9.5 trillion Naira or whatever, converts to about $45 billion. By this simple devaluation, you have wiped out $25 billion. And all you keep saying is, we will get $15 billion, this foreign investment. Meanwhile, with a stroke of the pen, you have lost 20-something billion dollars out of your stock market. The 5 trillion Naira that you expect, we keep debating on how to use it, pension funds, it should go into here, it should go into there. If it should have gone into infrastructural enhancement, your 5 trillion Naira, which used to be $25 billion, is now about $12 billion. The objective, don't forget, is $15 billion. At least that's the only one they can grab and say this is what we want. But now look at the series of events. Your GDP, that was supposed to be $510 billion, okay? By this devaluation, is probably less than $3 billion. Your assets, you have, tell me one other advantage apart from this one of $15 billion that would come as portfolio investments that can run out the very next day.
You know, I'm looking at the ripple effect you just reeled out, and what readily comes to mind is the Nigerian who is into business, who's taking maybe foreign loan.
You're a dead man, basically, because you have to find 50% more money. For example, if you took $1 million, okay, and before you had to find 200 million Naira to pay for it, okay, and that's assuming as a businessman you were successful in making a profit of 10% on that $1 million transaction, okay, you've made a profit of 10 million out of, 20 million out of 200 million. Now, with this devaluation, you have lost your 20 million profit, and you need to go look for 80 million Naira in order to be able to settle the same bill. You will get that 80 million Naira, but you would have to go to the bank, because unless you're a thief or you're a government thief or something like that, you won't easily have that kind of money under your bed. You have to go borrow it. And the banks would not say, sorry, this man, Forex hit you, anyway, let's give you loan. But they won't give it to you for free. The indications are that you will probably get that loan at 20% or more. So you are hit on both sides. A similar thing happened during the time of NERFund. A lot of people got NERFund loans which were dollar denominated at that time. NERFund, by the way, was the National Economic Reconstruction Fund. It's not only yesterday they started throwing money at industries and hoping that we would grow. But they do it, and people, how would I say it, commend these gestures. But these gestures are usually very ephemeral because they are not deep-rooted. They are not rooted in the structure, in the formal structure, in the best practice structure that should drive an economy. All these times that you had all these interventions, agricultural, this, 200, this, all the administrations have gone through the same exercise, but they never think about the realities on the ground, which is that no economy can be successfully driven without the monetary indices supporting your actions. In other words, if you had inflation continuously trending around 16 or 20% and could even be triggered much beyond 20% as a result of this particular devaluation, especially with regards to the impact it would have on oil prices. Don't be so relaxed and think, price of petrol is only for 145 Naira. With this arrangement now, the price of petrol will certainly exceed 200 Naira. Otherwise, there would be subsidy. So you now have this myriad structure of, how would I say it, distorted realities in the sense that somebody is choking you and he says, don't worry, you get better tomorrow. But he's not releasing his grip. It's not releasing his grip.
Is this peculiar to Nigeria or other African countries? Our neighbors, like Ghana, we've seen some businesses go in there, especially the airliners, the United States airliners who were operating in Nigeria. They have moved to Ghana, and a couple of them. But it would seem as if what we're seeing here is also not new in places like Ghana.
Well, I'm always amused when people talk about Ghana as the attractive economy where industries are moving and this and that and that and that. It's all false. There's nothing like that. And the situation in Ghana is even worse than here, okay? Because the reality is that these same monetary indices, which have been denied as a critical factor of development and growth, real growth, inclusive growth, okay, are also exhibited in a worse magnitude in Ghana. For example, I have been, how would I say, loudly how would I say, describing the treasury bill mop-up system of the central bank as totally fraudulent in many ways. I've said that for 14 years and nobody's contradicted me. And yet the treasury bill, cost of treasury bills, or the yield on treasury bills in Nigeria, maybe 10%, 11%, 12%, okay? In Ghana, the Central Bank of Ghana is mopping up excess liquidity at 26%. So if you're mopping up excess liquidity at 26% and inflation is trending towards 20%, and cost of funds, I was in Ghana a few weeks ago, and the Monetary Policy Committee had just had a meeting, and the new governor of Central Bank of Ghana was being asked, so at 26% mopping up, and what do you think cost of funds to the real sector would be? And the comment was that, well, there's very little we can do at the moment because of the volume of liquidity that we have to handle. And the reporter who was asking the question said, so it means that the real sector will still have to bear with 35% cost of funds for some time to come. You cannot run an economy successfully if the real sector in your country is having to borrow at 35%, okay? You cannot run an economy successfully when inflation is trending at 16% or 20%, as the case may be. Because at 20%, what you find is that consumer demand would contract, okay? If consumer demand contracts, what is an investor hoping to, what purpose is he hoping to serve? The person who used to, the baker who used to bake maybe 100 loaves of bread a day for his market might have to 10 to 50 loaves of bread because there is no market. And what does that mean? And that's on a micro scale, okay? You can look at it from the macro scale as well. And you'd find that the ultimate, how do I say it, fallback you would have was to throw out people out of jobs. And that only helps to do what? Increase our unemployment problem, and so on and so forth. So if you say you celebrate devaluation of 50% or thereabouts, and you want to let people believe that this would bring them happiness in future, I would want you to refer to history. The same arguments have been made over time. When we had SAP, the same thing happened. Okay. When 2006, or the debt relief, the same thing. We were asked, take it easy, but we are much worse, and I don't think we should take it easy.
We'll come back and continue on this and take a look at how it will also affect us further. So just don't go away. We'll be back.